Hi, my name is Kamal, and this is the making of my first indie game.
Game Hermits.
First off, I would like to apologize for the late upload of this devlog. However, looking on the bright side of this delay, we have more content to share with you and I hope you enjoy it. So let's jump in, shall we? It's been quite some time since the last devlog. I believe it's been more than 2 months. During that time, we were working on a vital stage of development of our debut indie title called To Valkyrie. For those first timers here, I'm happy to see you around. Here's a quick introduction. My name is Kamal. I've recently turned my whole life towards building this game. Together with my best friend Kareem, we make a two-man team under the name Game Hermits. Our current project, Call To Valkyrie, is a Viking-themed squad-based RTS that tackles the real sense of Viking raids, and it's based on real historical events, mainly the Great Heathen Army raids on Britannia. In the game, you start with a small group of soldiers as you have just arrived at your enemy's territory. You scout the map and try raiding settlements and occupying them. Only then will you be able to use the occupied settlements' resources to recruit peasants and grow your forces. Of course, the enemy will try their best to drive you off their land. The game mainly focuses around strategizing on the run. There is almost no time for staying still or fortifying a settlement, as that's not how the Vikings used to battle. You have to stay mobile, predict the enemy movement, and strike where they least expect. Once you have weakened the main settlement enough and drained its resources through raiding and defeating them in battles and skirmishes, it's time to march with your big force and destroy the capital. So far, we have launched 4 pre-alpha versions on itch.io. I'll leave a link to the latest version in the description below. These versions of the game were free, and honestly, we can't thank enough those of you who playtested them and gave us valuable feedback. Speaking of feedback, the game used to feature a locked camera that was a core mechanic we had polished as much as possible, in which the camera would stick to whatever group of units you select. This feature, on paper, sounded neat and fun. In our heads, the only way you could move around the map is through moving with actual units, which depicts an invader on a foreign land. But it quickly proved to be problematic. While some players enjoyed it, the majority did find it frustrating, even after all the polishing that went into it to make it super easy to control units without moving the camera. However, we do not really get too attached to our design ideas. So, after a lot of players stressed on how frustrating this mechanic is, we decided to discard it. As a result, we had to redesign the game, as this was one of the core mechanics and a lot of other features were based on it. This took a good week of work as Kareem and I iterated on various potential replacements until we finally came to a decision. We reverted back to the classic implementation of RTS games with movable camera, either by mouse hitting the edge of the screen or by keyboard arrows. Although UE4 features the powerful visual scripting tool known as blueprints, as a programmer, I prefer working with C++ and building robust, reusable and flexible systems that allow me to iterate and change things as swiftly as possible. And that showed in the changing of the camera functionality, as I had an actor component called Camera Manager that controls all input and functionality of the camera. By quickly overriding the move function, I was able to prototype the functionality from moving with selected units to moving on player input. I had to do some vector math to ensure that movement is always synced with player input, no matter what the rotation of the camera was. I then switched from merely setting the location of the camera according to player input, to accelerating and deaccelerating the camera pawn using Unreal's pawn movement component. This resulted in a very fluid and smooth camera movement and rotation. I wrapped up by implementing a boost to camera movement speed by holding Shift key, and I gotta say, I'm pretty happy with how things turned out to be. The other aspect of the classic implementation of RTS that we implemented was a fog of war system that hides all activity and is only revealed by player-owned units or settlements. The area of reveal is different for each unit. For example, a scout will have a very wide area of reveal, but is generally a weak unit, while a spear unit will have a narrow area of reveal, but is considered the strongest unit. Karim was the one responsible for that system, and we quickly came to know how hard this system was, as we had clearly underestimated it. He started out by trying to update a material on a plane based on player unit's collision. That worked, but it was too rigid and wouldn't work for different height levels in the design of the level. So he dropped this idea and went for a post-processing option. He had a material to cover all the landscape and had a mask to subtract from that cover, aka revealing. This mask is associated with player units. This worked too, only he couldn't configure masks in real time. He actually went so far into trying this approach out that he had 500 masks manually embedded in the Fog of War material and mapped each mask to a new player unit according to their spawn order. But of course, this resulted in a huge FPS drop and turned the game into unplayable junk. But can you blame the guy? We were on a tight schedule, and we were late to learn how hard the system is. So to cope with the new situation, we turned to the marketplace. We generally like to develop everything ourselves, but every once in a while, we are faced with a problem that's out of our league, like this one here, and we are better off buying a ready-to-use system from the marketplace. We found this VA Fog of War package that worked perfectly. It had a free version, but it doesn't include any documentation on how to set it up, and the paid version which includes everything you need to get you up and running. With this, we successfully implemented the Fog of War system as we previously designed and imagined. I have to say that reverting back to the classic design of RTS games gave us more room to stress on the actual unique mechanics of this game, which is raiding and occupying. We have a lot of really cool features fully designed, like Peasants' Rebellion and cutting trade routes, and we are very excited to be working on them in the near future. I'd like to know your thoughts on the old system versus the new system in the comments below. The next thing we've done was balancing. Because the game will be a single player campaign only, balancing units wasn't as hard as we thought, especially since we planned out this system carefully. Each unit inherits from an interface which is like a big template. Changing the variables of this template results in different behaviors. This allows us to make as many unit types as we like. For now, we only have 3 types, which are Scouts, Ranged, and Melee. In the future, we'll have ships, towers, and of course, champions. It took us 2 playtesting versions to get the right balancing. However, the trickiest was obviously the AI behavior, aka how the enemy thinks. That's because we created an AI system that actually plays against you and counters you instead of just taking a predetermined course of action like other RTS games. This was, again, done in C++ and took over a month to implement and another to polish. I mean, we only feature a single player experience, so we've got to nail that one, right? Though the AI system isn't complete yet. The core systems are ready, and in the latest version, which you can download on itch.io, you can see how the AI alternates between attacking you right away, sending reinforcements to other settlements, or striking your least fortified settlement in order to corner you and end the game with one attack. I'd be happy to share the underlying techniques I've used to program this AI in a separate video. Let me know in the comments if I should make such a video. It's really funny how one can create something that eventually gets out of control and beats him every time. But I digress. The last thing that we worked on and has taken a chunk of time is business side. Of course, I know that game development is, in the end, another business. We have been super organized and professional by always having an updated game design document and business plan, a live task board on Asana customized to support Scrum workflow, and of course, chunks of code documentation. This is mainly due to my OCD, aka everything must be organized, or I'll turn into your worst nightmare and haunt you to the ends of the earth. My buddy Kareem has to put up with this every month because I insist on him writing hundreds of comment lines to keep the code documented. I'm sorry, bro. Since we launched the 4th pre-alpha version, this means we have successfully completed the pre-production phase and are now able to enter the production phase to get this game done in the best way possible. Only, there's a small problem, or rather a huge one, that is funding. Like many fellow indie developers out there with passionate projects, we lack the budget needed for the compilation of this game. And while we can go for a Kickstarter, we'd rather partner with a publisher. I know this sounds weird coming from an indie developer, but reality is the market has never been fiercer. And to efficiently market the game, and also your first game, we'd need a team of professionals who focus on marketing the game while we develop it. We contacted some publishers after preparing a cool pitch deck, business plan, marketing plan, and so on. But that, of course, will take some time. However, you can help us by spreading the word. Sharing this video around and helping us get more visibility will increase our chances with potential publishers who might like the game idea and the prototype we've prepared but are skeptical about us since this is our debut game. We will continue working on the game nonetheless, but without proper funding, we might not be able to keep working on it full time. So it would really mean a lot if you share our work and follow us on social media. I'll leave all the links in the description below. And that marks the end of this devlog. I'll be focusing on fleshing out more content on this channel now that I have a little more time, so consider subscribing and join the community over on Discord. And with that, I'm out. Peace!